Hello again. Welcome to Life Coach Live. My name's Paul Heron, and I'm here today again with Tyler Nouwens. As we've been doing over the last few weeks, we're here to start or to continue, I guess, our deep dive into some of the insights and challenges that we have faced over our coaching journey. And today, following on from the very interesting conversation we had last Thursday around vision and what our vision is, I thought today we might have a bit of a talk about how we can start to think about turning our vision into a reality and what that entails and what that means. So I'd just like to welcome Tyler, and I might just quickly ask at the start of this video here what this means to you, Tyler.
How to turn your vision into reality?
Hmm.
Well, depends on the vision, I suppose. The greater the vision, the greater the challenge of turning it into a reality. And I think that's what makes. We spoke about this last time, but that's what makes life meaningful. Is having a vision that gives you a greater sense of purpose. And it kind of is your North Star through life, and all of your daily, weekly, monthly, yearly routines can be built around that. And it's worth pursuing. Having a vision, first of all, is something that is, I think, essential for people in life. And if you're fortunate enough to have clarity around your vision, then the fun begins. Then the work begins. So, which we can get into, right? I think that's what the talk is about today.
Absolutely. And, for me, what comes up is, that whole idea of getting really clear on what is most important to us. It was a really interesting conversation that we had last week. And as we were chatting about a little bit before we hit the live button there, it's kind of these conversations that we've been having over the last few weeks have started to change my perspective a little bit in terms of how this all comes together. Because at a basic level, I guess, or at the outer circle level, we've got these desires and dreams and things that we want to achieve. And, somehow or another, we need to find a way to find the energy, find the passion, find the will, I guess, to take the actions that are required to take us to that vision. I heard a really interesting analogy during the week, and forgive me if I've already mentioned this, but it was about how children see the world. A 12-month-old looks around them and they see their brothers, they see their parents, they see everyone walking around them. What they don't do is overthink it. What they don't do is break that goal down. They're not sitting there with a formal structure. They're not obsessing in, how I'm going to go about doing this. They simply have a vision of what it is they want to achieve, and they start taking action towards it. They jump up and start trying to walk. They fall over. There's a million attempts they make. And finally, after months of trying, after weeks of trying, they can pull themselves up and walk across the room. Without much thought. It's vision, action, and after some effort, the result. And I think that's a really powerful reminder. As adults, we're often overcomplicating things. I know I am. And I have many, many times been stuck in the planning how I'm going to turn this vision that I've got into a reality. And, yes, we can talk about sort of how we can get past some of these barriers, I guess, a bit later on in this talk. One of the things I want to talk about is some of the tools that we can employ to sort of help us overcome some of the challenges and the resistance that we feel. But the change in my mind that has popped up over the last couple of weeks has been that the tools themselves aren't necessarily required. If a child can have a vision and just get up and start taking the action towards that vision and ultimately achieve it, maybe we can as well. What's stopping us from just starting to take action towards our goals? And that's just an interesting thought that has popped up for me over the last couple of days. I'm interested to get your thoughts on that, Tyler.
Yeah, for sure, Paul. Great points you're making there. And it's such a simple analogy, the one that you've used. And I think as we get older, at least for myself, we tend to not enjoy the falling down part too much. And, oftentimes we don't take risks anymore. We stop trying because of the pain, the hurt of falling down. And, the greater your vision is, or the greater your dream is, and if you invest a lot of mental, emotional, physical energy, money into the fulfillment of your dream, and it goes sideways and you lose everything, it can be devastating for people. And that's why people tend to start playing it safe and stop taking risks, because they're traumatized and they're afraid of repeating the same mistakes. So they just decide not to do anything,
Yeah.
But that has its own repercussions and problems. You end up living a very unfulfilling life. And, after a certain amount of time, that begins to wear and tear on your heart, on your soul, because I think we're all here with something deep inside of our hearts that we want to express and we want to fulfill. And, it's important to go through whatever the growing pains are, the falling down. It's important to fall down, because when you get yourself up, you become stronger. And it's that strength and determination and resilience that's required to go the distance.
Mm-hmm.
Because, if you have a great vision, God only knows what obstacles you're going to have to endure and overcome in order to reach and fulfill that vision.
I love it, Tyler. That's what's coming up for me there is, as adults, we've got more on the line. There's more, we're risking more. If you think back to that example I used, that child doesn't know any better. They've got nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. They're just jumping out, doing the thing they know they want to do. And I think we put these layers of protection on, certain events happen. We decide we're not experiencing that ever again. And we've got so many layers of protection on, and we've got a lot more to lose as adults. But how do we turn our vision into reality? It comes back to that question. And one thing that has really impacted my ability to turn my visions into reality is overthinking. If the formula for turning your visions into reality is simply taking action and taking the right action that's going to eventually lead to the result you're looking for. That's a pretty simple formula. But for me personally, and I know that there's many others in the same boat, we get stuck in that bit in between. And I think that's where, there's an opportunity here for us today, Tyler, to just have a talk about why it is that we get stuck in this in-between phase between becoming crystal clear on what our vision is and truly understanding what we want and turning it into a reality. And I think you touched on many of the points already. When we are so passionate and, when this vision that we're trying to work towards is so important, when we're putting it up on this pedestal, I guess, we need to get it right. It has to be perfect. Whatever actions we're going to take have to be the right actions in some ways. Well, that's our thinking at least anyway. Well, that's been my thinking at least anyway. That is where some of the tools that we can talk about in a moment can certainly help us to, break down the enormity of what it is that we're trying to work towards. This idea of just not knowing what the first thing that we need to do is. How are we going to get there? We've got this thing that we want to achieve. How are we going to get there? It can be daunting. It can be, where do we start? I'd love to get what are your thoughts on that, Tyler, on that process of just trying to figure out how we can take that first action?
Yeah. Well, the slide here, are you stuck in planning? I kind of read that as, are you stuck in your head? Mm-hmm. And your body knows what to do. And the head really is protecting you from falling down. It's assessing the risk of, there's the body might feel like the body wants to move forward blindly. And the head is like, whoa, wait a minute. So the planning from a mental standpoint, it is actually, our plan is on how not to fall. It's not really on how to fulfill the vision. The plan is, I've got to come up with the plan in order to ensure that I won't fail, that I won't get hurt, that I won't be put in situations that I can't handle, where I'm out of my depth, where it's too overwhelming and I'm too uncomfortable. That's where you get stuck planning, because you can't really live life that way according to plan. There's a quote: if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Oh, absolutely. So many of us have this, the vision is one thing. The vision is really difficult for a lot of us as well. But once we become clear on what it is that we want to move towards, once we start, the planning, planning really is becoming, it's putting some specificity around what it is that we're trying to create. When do we want to create it by? What exactly does it look like? Becomes even more challenging. Once we start saying it to ourselves, once we start telling the world, it can be really challenging. I love what you said there, Tyler, about it being, your interpretation of this. Are you stuck in planning? Are you stuck in your head? That's what it is. I think that's what it is. We get in our own way. That piece of time between deciding that something is really important for us, that we want to come to fruition, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to make it come to fruition, and actually starting to get in motion. There's only one thing that's in the way, and it can only be ourselves. And, I think that's where there's a big opportunity for us as coaches ourselves, and, as coaches, for for the benefit of the community around us and for everyone that we work with, but also for ourselves. Just to be able to just understand what's going on, understand what the resistance is that we're experiencing, and to try and work through how we can just get started. Because in my mind anyway, there's a big distinction between waiting to be ready to start and actually being in motion. Being in motion. Once you've actually started, the ball's rolling. Once you start to build momentum and you start to, like what we're doing right now, like over the last few weeks, we've just got started. And I don't think either of us could have imagined, even in these early days, that we would be here a few weeks ago. And it's only come about because we got started. And we could be still sitting here waiting to be ready. I just think it's a really interesting thing to bring awareness to more than anything else. Because I think very often it happens subconsciously, or we're not even aware of it. So just starting to take notice that if this thing is so important to be described as our vision, then we need to find a way just to get started.
Yeah. The vision doesn't change. Like if you have found your ultimate life purpose or your higher vision, that's a constant. Your plans are going to change. Your plans are going to be fluid, because every time you take a step forward, you've learned something and you have a new perspective. You have more information, you have more experience. And so the step that follows is going to be something that was unforeseen prior to you taking the first step. So really the step is you kind of already know what you want to do, what you need to do. You kind of already know. And unfortunately, you're not doing it because you're resisting it. It's like you don't even want to become conscious and admit to yourself what it is you need to do, because it's uncomfortable and you're afraid. So, that's what community is for. And that's what support is for.
And I think that leads us nicely into the next part of this talk that I wanted to have today. And this is where my perspective has changed. If you had have asked me only a few weeks ago, what do I think is most important? I probably would have said something like goal setting. We need to know what our goals are. We need a plan. We need to know what we're needing to do. I'm kind of shifting my perspective on that a little bit. We need to know absolutely what it is that we want to move towards and what's most important to us. And we need to just we need to get in motion as quickly as we can. We just need to get started. If we experience resistance, if we experience any challenges, if we experience, even if we just want to help the process become easier, there are a number of different tools that we can use to help us in our journey. And you mentioned community support, using coaches. There are so many tools that we've got available to us. But where my perspective is changing a little bit is the tools aren't the solution to our problem. They're an aid to help us overcome the challenges that we're experiencing. And they're an aid that can help us do the thing we really need to be doing, which is taking action towards our vision. You've got to know me a little bit over the last 18 months or so, Tyler, and you know that goal setting is really important and to me, and something that I am passionate about. But I think it needs to be used like any tool. This goal setting tool that we've got available to us needs to be used in the right way. I've got many different stories I could tell, but there's a lot of different analogies I could use in terms of tools and how to use them. But one that sticks out to me is I've always been sporty, always messed around playing a bit of cricket, golf, whatever was going. I can remember a time where I was a member of a cricket club and we went out and had a golf day. And, we all thought we were the bee's knees. We were all pretty competitive. We all had our big set of golf clubs, 13 golf clubs, whatever we've got. There was one guy who came along who we didn't really know at the time, but he was a very, very good golfer. He was a great golfer. He was, on his way to trying out to get on the golf tours and all this type of stuff. And he turned up to this golf day with one club, one tool. We've got our kit with us, all the tools in the world. He had one golf club and he just walked around that golf course and just put on a masterclass with one club.
Was it a 7-iron?
It was a 7-iron. But he was putting with it and he was driving with it and he was doing everything with it. And he beat everyone there that was at that day with one club. And I just look at that as a perfect example of, it's not more tools that we need. It's learning how to use some of these tools to our advantage to help us do the thing that we really want to do. And I think there is, I think that's something that we can all spend some time thinking about. It's not, I've got a million analogies. I'm a collector of power tools. We were renovating a house a few years ago and my garage filled up with tools. Like, yes, I got better at using most of them. I'd go to YouTube, I'd figure out how to get things done. But in the end, it's the knowledge we acquire, it's the desires that we have, it's the vision that we have, and it's taking action towards that vision that gets us where we want to be. It's not the tools. Yeah. I have some more thoughts to have around this topic. As I said, this is a newish revelation to me that is sort of becoming a little bit clearer as I move through. But I just think it's a really interesting thing to think through.
Yeah. 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 I think of goals as being a little bit like your mission, what you're determined to do, and what you're committed to, and to form a discipline around that. And it doesn't need to be complicated. You can just choose one thing. Like if your vision is to become an author, then your mission might be to write 2,000 words every day or 5 days a week or whatever it is. And, your vision of being an author may always be consistent. Every day, if you really get in touch with what it is you want and you're being really honest with yourself, then you're like, yeah, I want to be an author. But I can probably guarantee that you're not going to necessarily feel like writing 2,000 words every day. Your goal for today may be a challenge to do that consistently. And that's where your commitment to your vision comes in, And on the flip side, Paul, I think we also have to trust that, in balance and not be too hard on ourselves if we're not meeting our goal for the day. We had a goal, and I think it's important to give yourself a little bit of grace and leeway and not beat yourself up if you don't follow through on, what it is, and recover for the next day. That's kind of my thing, my input on this subject anyway. So it's my thoughts.
Yeah. I love it, Tyler. It's, I think in this particular, the tools that we've got available to us, we're all unique, we're all different. Different tools are going to be needed for different situations and different people. And for me personally, putting a bit of structure to my goals really helps me make sense, helps me identify what needs to be done. For me, thinking about a longer term ultimate vision, ultimate goal that I want to move towards is a bit daunting at first. And I found tremendous value in breaking that down into manageable chunks, working on one of those chunks at a time, and getting to a place where I can trust the things that I need to get done today. I know that any time we're looking forward, we're talking about goal setting right now, we've spoken about vision. Anytime we look forward, all we're really trying to do is create a target that we want to move towards. Something that we can reference our decision-making on a daily basis against, our planning, our goal setting, our commitment. Sometimes, as you alluded to, sometimes we won't want to get up early and do our 2,000 words. We won't want to go to the gym. There's certain things we just won't feel like doing, but if we can start to build a resilience around knowing what is most important for us and knowing what's required for us to achieve the success that we're looking to achieve, it can really help us in those times when we're not quite feeling that we need to do the things we need to do. And I think that's where I've found the most value, that, developing that sense of determination, of commitment, resilience, just trying to figure out what the inputs are that are required for my recipe of success and just doing them as consistently as we can. And it's okay if we don't do everything we put our mind to. But if we're doing what we commit ourselves to do, if we trust ourselves that we can make decisions that are appropriate for our vision, and we continue to take action in line with our vision, those longer term goals will look after themselves eventually. Does anything else come up for you there, Tyler?
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, it would be interesting to go through maybe what some of the tools are that I don't know if time permits today, but maybe, talk about what some of the tools are. But I think the thing that you talked about, creating some structure around your days in order to feel like you're making progress towards your goals and your vision. I think it's important. And, for me, I've had a vision to be a life coach for a long time. And it really felt like I was stuck because there was some resistance to doing certain things. But I kept doing what I could do every day. And I did continue to work on certain skills and develop certain abilities until I got to the point where, okay, I cannot not do the next step. I cannot not take a risk. I have to now, because me not doing it, the thing that I knew I needed to do, was more painful than the fear I had around doing it. So, one way or another, if you're committed to your vision, things are going to shift and change. Everything does change in time, but I'll tell you, my vision has been very consistent. It really hasn't wavered.
Yeah. I think, something that's coming up for me is just reinforcing that idea that moving towards, our vision it's a future version of ourselves in many ways. And for us to get there requires growth, and growth comes from stepping outside of our comfort zone and understanding that it's not all going to be easy. And we need to find ways to manage ourselves through that growth. And that's where some of these tools can come into play. We don't want to completely jump in the deep end and scare ourselves off and make another one of those decisions that says something to the effect of, I'm never doing this again.
Right.
We want to be able to experience growth in a healthy way, but in a way that helps, us maintain action out of our comfort zone. Knowing that if we do this enough, it will become more and more comfortable, and it will eventually be something that's in our comfort zone. There's many different directions I could go here, but we spoke previously, and I don't know if it's come up on this particular page just yet, but if I think back 18 months ago, when we first met, I still had an issue around visibility and putting myself out there, and doing these type of live calls would have been a huge challenge for me. And what has helped me is putting a bit of a plan in place and how I can continue to take steps out of my comfort zone to allow myself to build up some resilience and build up some, it's far. I love getting on these calls now. I wouldn't be doing anything else right now. And that's only come from really pushing myself out of the comfort zone and looking for the next challenge, just continuing to look for that next challenge that's just out of your comfort zone. And, with all the planning in the world, all the vision exercises that we can do, they're fantastic. But, as I say, they're really that target that guides our actions. But the only thing that gets us there is actually taking those actions. And, one way or the other, we need to find a way to make it a reality, to jump out and do the work that's required to achieve the things that are most important.
Absolutely.
I have, we spoke briefly about goal setting there. And, we don't know which direction we're going to head in the next coming weeks, months. We've got a few things that we've spoken about. I do have for anyone that might be interested, I do have a goal setting blueprint overview, that has worked for me. That's my goal setting process. I'm happy to share that. I can leave a link to it in the comments. But I think the most important takeaway that I would encourage people to think about is, simplify things. Just keep coming back to the basics of, for us to have our vision become a reality requires us to take action accordingly. And whatever we feel like we need to help us take steps in that direction, fantastic. We can look at tools like the goal setting framework I just mentioned. We can work with coaches. We can do the inner work that's required to overcome the resistance. Look at our beliefs, look at those old decisions that we've made and question whether they're still appropriate for us. We can think about our identity and who it is that we are and who it is that we need to be to experience that sense of vision that we're looking towards achieving. But ultimately, the only way we get there is by taking action. And if you are wondering whether it's the right action to take, anything. If you have never done it before, it's probably the right thing to do. If you've got a bit of fear, worry, doubt on whether it's the right thing to do, it's probably the right thing to try. What have you got to lose by giving something a go and seeing what happens? And I think that's a big part of the, that belief, that faith that you've got everything that you need within you to create the things that are most important to you. and most importantly, to just get started.
There's that unknown aspect to taking that step forward into doing something that's out of your comfort zone. And that can be really scary, and why most people don't even try. But I think it's really important to understand what's on the other side. So you're stepping forward into the unknown, but what you're going to receive, what's going to come as a result of that action, is something that you can't really predict. And it's a gift. There is a gift waiting for you. The thing that you really want is on the other side of the thing that you're afraid to do. And it's more important to maintain a visual and a positive focus on what it is that you want, because that's going to guide you through the fear and resistance of doing the thing that's uncomfortable. And you just breathe through it. Trust that you're going to be okay, and it's worth it. Find out what's on the other side. I really encourage that. Paul and I both really encourage that. That's what I think the whole essence of this talk is about.
We can't know. We can't know what's on the other side until we go through the experience of making it a reality. The thing. We need to do the thing. Yeah.
The thing that you want is on the other side.
Yeah.
The thing that you're afraid to do.
And you don't even know what that thing is until you do the thing.
Right.
It's a really interesting way to look at this. I know we're running short on time, Tyler, and I know we need to finish this up soon. But I just quickly want to mention, I was talking to a client today, and we were having a conversation about this exact topic. What is it where do you want to be in 10 years' time? And it was really difficult for him to imagine that. And I reversed it and I said, think back 10 years, yourself 10 years back. What would you tell? What advice would you give? If you were able to go back and tell that person 10 years ago, and he had a list of different things. He knows he's on the other side right now. He's got so much information that he can give that younger version of himself. And I said to him, now think forward again and understand you can't know. You're that person from 10 years ago. You can't know what your what your future self is going to be like until you go through the work. You can make your best guess, and we can create a target that sounds so compelling and you're so passionate about setting forward on your journey to try and achieve. But who knows what it's going to evolve into. We don't want to be looking at step number 2 until we've completed step number 1 of whatever journey we're on. We don't even need to think about much further ahead. Literally this is the thing that I want to try and create. This is the thing that's most important to me, and how can I get started? Do you have anything else to add before we finish up for today, Tyler?
We could probably talk about it for quite a bit. I'm going to refrain from adding anything to it. But yeah, I do have other stuff I'd like to add next time.
Well, I can't wait to hear it. Well, thank you all for tuning into Life Coach Live. I hope you found value in the talk that we've had today. I know that I have, and I know that Tyler has. I know we get enormous value ourselves just having these conversations. If you've enjoyed this, if you've stumbled across it, subscribe to the channel, join us for future live broadcasts. We're aiming to go live every Tuesday and every Thursday. So look us up, and until next time, bye for now.